just within the last 10 minutes, we've heard the Sacramento Police Department on the loudspeaker. Ooh, sorry, we just heard a loud bang there, as I'm sure you heard as well.
As it becomes hard for these firefighters to get in front of this, as these embers are just ripping across the landscape here.
We're also learning the victim, a mother who was inside her own home with her husband and 2 kids at the time of the shooting. For the middle of May, the water is as high as it's been in at least 5 years. As a result, it is moving much quicker. You can tell that the beaches are nearly non-existent, and looking out at the water, you can tell visibility is nearly zero. We hit the streets of South Lake Tahoe to find out just how big of a problem this is. Right off the bat, we came up on these 2 trash cans, incredibly egregious. This has been continuous all afternoon and into the evening. You can check out this car here to see how much is accrued. We have several inches of powder just sitting right on top there. It's hard to tell what exactly this was, but coming up on this structure here, you can see, as is often the case, the only thing left standing is the refrigerator, as this fire has scorched everything else around here. This is Senator Sanders' California kickoff. How do you convince superdelegates to switch their support to you?
I will tell you exactly how.
The road washed out in the middle of last week after water built up on one side, eventually blowing out the culvert and then the road. Harris is at the top of the polls. She has that name recognition that none of the other candidates do. With that in mind, she says she welcomed the attacks she faced, knowing that that's all part of the political process.
This is Keating Park in Vacaville. It's about 100 acres, is what I'm told, the fire right now, and 100 people have been evacuated. But there's no way to describe this without the pictures, and you can just see the size of this blade. The entire mountainside is lit up in flames, and not too far away are homes. If we could just pan to the right here, I'm going to ask my photographer, Alan. You can see where the homes are. You can see there are more firefighters working to put out these hot spots, and just below them is a huge neighborhood. To repeat, we know at least 100 people have been evacuated. They've gone to an evacuation center that's just at the bottom of this neighborhood here. We know that this fire started sometime, I'd say around 10:30, and initially we were just getting reports on how this was growing in size. It was 10 acres, and then the next phone call I got, which was maybe about a half hour ago, said it was 100 acres. You can see those flames, and those are a good distance away, and I can tell you that just from where we're standing, you can feel the heat. And as pretty obviously, you can also tell what's driving this blaze right now is the wind, just ripping through this area as it becomes hard for these firefighters to get in front of this, as these embers are just ripping across the landscape here. Kelly, the 2 sources, both in law enforcement, work for different agencies, but both working on this investigation. I'm told that Alicia Yeoman's mother was out here touring this search site yesterday when these text messages started coming in. We've also obtained surveillance video of Yeoman's truck in the moments before it ended up here behind me.
Just follow him in, it's not pull up behind.
Our sources tell us shortly after being escorted into the search area Tuesday evening in Live Oak, Yeoman's mother received text messages saying her daughter is alive, had been kidnapped, and made demands. The family raced out of the area with detectives to chase the lead further. According to law enforcement sources, the messages came from an online source and bounced from multiple IP addresses, making the sender harder to trace. Yeoman was last seen Thursday leaving Romero Street in Yuba City. Surveillance video obtained by KCRA3 from a nearby home captured her truck driving by at 10:54 that night, though you can't make out the driver. First racing down Cooley Road, that same scene captured from another angle farther back, then slowing once it reached the levee, signaling with a blinker before driving around a fence. The gate there in that surveillance video is the same one you see here on top of the levee. The truck actually came around this way, tilting on its side before it took off down the road here. Investigators found the truck Monday parked in an orchard at the bottom of the levee. Yeoman is a student at Yuba College where her fellow classmates are worried.
It makes me kind of worried to go around by myself at night. She seemed like she had a good head on her shoulders.
Sources tell KCRA3 the FBI is now involved with the investigation and another search is being organized. Investigators continue to process the area her car was found, looking for any clue to help bring Alicia back. Crime scene investigators worked up until about 15 minutes ago processing this area behind me where the truck was found. I'm told that a large-scale law enforcement search is planned for here tomorrow. The Good Samaritan, also known as Reggie Johnson, moved to Vacaville just last week and was at the park with his kids when the trouble started. Johnson is a Navy petty officer who was off duty at the time, so when he saw the suspects fleeing officers, his instincts took over.
I heard one of the police officers, when they were tussling, say, "Gun, gun." And then all of a sudden I hear, "He's running, he's running."
While playing with his kids Thursday afternoon at Vacaville's Andrews Park, Reggie Johnson saw a suspect breaking away from police and chose to step in.
The thing that was going through my mind was just natural reaction and instinct. I just remember telling one of the cops that I got him.
Just moments before, officers struggled to handcuff 18-year-old Wyatt Sayoli after they found him carrying this loaded handgun in the park.
While the officer was attempting to put him into the police car, that's when he broke away from him.
He had about a 50-yard lead on me, and I end up kicking off my flip-flops and running towards him.
The off-duty Navy petty officer raced across the park, closing in on Sayoli and a busy 4-lane road. When the suspect reached the street, he crossed. Not far behind him, Johnson in hot pursuit. The chase continued up Vine Street and finally ended here on Stephen Petty's front lawn.
Yeah, it was impressive, all right. He got him. All you heard was a big thud on the ground.
Just ended up grabbing him, taking him to the ground. 6'1", 225 pounds. And being physical, something I like doing. I just told him, hey, man, you know, don't try to do anything. I got you. You're not going nowhere.
That's where he stayed until officers caught up moments later, grateful for Johnson's help.
It really is nice to see people reach out and try to help us. And we appreciated what he did that day.
Johnson sees it as fulfilling his duty. Though their uniforms are different, these officers share the same goal.
Law enforcement and military, again, when it comes to protecting the people, that's what we're all about.
Johnson has served in the Navy for 19 years and just moved to Vacaville last week. One neighbor told me that's the kind of guy you want to have in the neighborhood. Yeah. Harris is at the top of the polls. She has that name recognition that none of the other candidates do. With that in mind, she says she welcomed the attacks she faced, knowing that that's all part of the political process. Meantime, the other candidates all seem to be jockeying for second place.
And certainly it's true, John.
For 90 minutes, the candidates faced the pressure of the moderators, cameras, and crowd.
I thought it was great.
I'm very confident.
Oh, I think we did great.
State Attorney General Harris came out the target of most attacks, a tactic she expected. Why do you think the other candidates were really focusing in on you with their attacks?
I mean, listen, I think it's appropriate that in a debate, in an election, that you are asked to defend your positions.
The other Democrat, Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, believes her experience gave her the upper hand.
Here's the issue with the rest of the candidates. They don't know where we've been, they don't know where we are, and they don't know where we're going. I mean, because they just don't have the history and they don't have the experience.
As for the three Republicans in the race, each worked to isolate themselves and Harris as the inevitable matchup.
And I think this debate showed that the only two people on that stage with actual ideas are me and Kamala Harris. I just like mine a little bit better.
I think realistically, our goal is to come into second place. I think Kamala Harris is the odds-on favorite to come in first.
I think I got some of my crucial points out there, and I think the voters will decide, and I think I have a reasonable shot at it.
The debate gave the candidates a chance to introduce themselves to voters on the biggest stage statewide, an opportunity they're grateful for and hope will help.
Oh, I think it's very productive.
This is basically the first opportunity most of the state voters have had to really see the candidates running, to see their issues, to see the way they respond, and I think it went well.
And what I want to do is I want to be able to look the people of California in the eye after 6 years and say, I have done everything I possibly could to help improve your lives.
I think the reality is that I have the most specific policies, whether it's the flat tax or otherwise.
I think it's one of the most important parts of what we can do in a campaign, which is talk about our issues, defend our positions, and allow other people to weigh in.
Now, you never know who's going to stick around and talk to reporters afterward, and to our pleasant surprise, all of the candidates did. If that's indicative of anything, it's that they felt good about their performances. No one seemed to be in damage control mode. It's here in this Wells Fargo parking lot behind me that the turkey likes to assert his dominance. He's often walking up to people, blocking them, preventing them from getting in and out of their cars, that sort of thing. And so as you can imagine, a lot of people don't know what to do in this situation, and some are taking to calling the police department for help.
Davis Police Department, how can I help you? Yes, this is almost embarrassing. I am trying to get into my office on G Street in Davis, and I have this huge turkey surrounding my car, circling me, and I don't know what to do.
There's a turkey in Davis that likes to defend its territory. Problem is, that territory is the city's downtown. It's gotten so aggressive, panic callers are dialing 911 more and more.
Hi, I got a turkey here that just won't let me leave. So it's just put me in a corner and I can't exactly go anywhere.
Is that your little pet?
The troublesome Tom seen here darting at, then circling, and finally chasing after a man just last month. The city's even posted signs offering tips on how to handle the turkey.
Local agencies.
Wildlife specialist John McNerney helped create them, and a new ordinance passed last week that allows the city to euthanize aggressive turkeys like this.
Be the dominant species, essentially. Don't let it intimidate you, which can be difficult for some folk.
Many here have horror stories of their interactions.
I've seen him attack cars. I saw him attack this little girl. He was trying to chase a little girl, and the dad finally had to pick her up.
Yesterday, city and county officials tried capturing the turkeys starting here at Wells Fargo. It led them for a half mile, up and down city streets, always evading them. It didn't end until here at East 8th and K, where they lost it. That was enough to get the turkey out of downtown, though, meaning hopefully fewer callers like this about the bothersome bird.
Oh, I can't leave. I can't go anywhere. It's just sitting here and I gotta get somewhere.
So what should you do if you find yourself in this situation? The city recommends shouting at the bird, making yourself big, definitely not backing away from it. And if you have anything in your hands, you want to actually use that to get in between yourself and the bird.